Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Event Hustler Show. My name is Liz King Caruso, and I'm the CEO of Liz King Events. And I am very excited to be back with you all for another episode of the Event Hustler Show, where we get to talk to amazing industry professionals in every facet of the work that we do. We talk about all kinds of industry topics, and this is actually our second episode back after the pandemic, which actually started 4 months ago. But with everything going on, we're just kind of kicking things back off. So I'm really excited to introduce you all to Jacqueline Vazquez from Lifetime Events by Jacqueline. Thank you so much for joining us, and welcome, welcome, welcome.
Hi, everyone, and thank you, Liz, for inviting me.
Of course. So this is one of actually maybe the first time ever that we've had a guest where you and I haven't known each other for many years and had 5,000 conversations. So I'm as excited to learn more about you as I'm sure all of our listeners and watchers are. We do have people watching the live stream, so I wanted to share that you're welcome to put your comments and questions in the feed of the live stream that you're watching. We're live right now on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. So wherever you are watching, you can put those questions and comments in. I can bring them on screen and we can work them into our conversation. But I wanted to just keep this conversation fairly open and, see where it takes us. I know you have done a ton of work in the industry from an educational perspective. I know you are also working now doing some stuff with the Live Events Coalition, which is so important given everything that's happened to our industry. But first, before we get into any of that, I just want to talk to you about you. What's your career path like? How'd you get into events? And how are you doing today? Which I think is a really important question in these crazy times.
Wow. I had a different response for that before I saw a Zoom call that I mentioned to you earlier. But, my heart goes out first to everybody right now. There's no words right now, just staying positive as much as you can.
Yeah.
But thank you again, Liz, for inviting me. And I have been, let me backtrack. I was an accountant years ago, graduated from Baruch College and earned my accounting degree. Didn't want to be a CPA. There was a reason for that. I just didn't know at that point that there was a reason why I didn't want to go that route. But still, and then I was in that industry, a little bit in accounting, and then went into payroll for a few years. Maybe around a total of 20 years. And in between that, I started doing corporate holiday parties for the companies I was working for, events for people that I knew. And then all of a sudden, I was being referred to other people that I didn't know and doing their events. And it just started getting me just wild up with passion. And I'm like, wait a minute. I know that I was not as passionate about accounting. It was just a job for me. But I did learn a lot of good traits. But I wasn't as passionate about that compared to doing events. And my heart was already like, wow, this is something that I'm going to look into. And I kept on doing it a little bit more. And for me, being an education advocate, I always knew that even though at that time there wasn't a lot of platforms for education, I was like, I need to find something. And everything was online or association driven. And I was like, I need to attach it to an association as well, because it'll have more credibility.
Yeah.
And so I started with, I took my first course through Weddings Beautiful Worldwide. And then from there with the Association of Bridal Consultants. And then I just kept on and opened my business officially because I'm sure everybody can relate, or a few people can relate, that you start off unofficially and then woof, you're official now with your branded company and everything. And Lifetime Events by Jacqueline came about. So that's my company is officially probably 12 years now, or going on 13. So the year is just going really fast. So, you mentioned education. Yes, again, education has been one of my core things. I did teach for Longevity, the Wedding Planning Institute, for about 5-6 years, in-person classroom sessions. And for me, that was better than the online, because I was able to connect in person
Yeah.
with my students. And I'm the type of person that, whether it's education or speaking, that I give inspiration, that I give, I'm an open book and I like to share. So the in-person piece of it was really important for me. It motivated me just as much as it motivated them.
Yeah.
So I did that for a while, and I continued with mentoring, teaching, and also speaking, not just nationally, but also internationally.
That's great. Now, I know you mentioned that you were affiliated with various programs, especially on the special event side. And you made a quick comment that I want to get back to, which is when I asked you how you're doing, you said, actually, I had a different answer than after you and I talked about the Zoom call you just participated in before we went live. But tell us a little bit more about that and what impact you're seeing the pandemic have, especially on the special events industry.
Yeah, so I know that, and I will go back to this later on, but I've been a part of the live events, and we had a town hall on Friday, which I wasn't able to be on, but I saw the whole recording, and it was just so much information. And then we did have a guest in there that we're aligned with and partnering with, and it's a few of the members from the banquet strategic task force. And so they're having a Zoom at this moment in reference to everything that's going on. Their initial start was with creating a protocol for, the state governor, and because we thought we were going to reopen. And now it's a whole different conversation that's going
Oh, yeah.
on. And so I said, let me just take a sneak peek before I go on. And I jumped into a conversation they were having of they're sharing stories. And it's just, people being furloughed and not being able to see the light ahead. We thought that there was going to be a light, and now there isn't. And just for me, I haven't thought about my business at the moment. I really have been just being there for colleagues and just relating to what they're going through right now. I'm the type of person that's all about positivity, and
Yeah.
just hearing some of the stories beforehand is just heart-wrenching. And I wish everybody the utmost best, just hoping that there is an open door, an open avenue, and a walkway, something
Yeah.
that we're able to move ahead a little bit, or see or get some answers. And I know it's not just industry specific. I know there's so many other industries that are in an unknown, because I've been doing a lot of different research on that. But the event industry is overlooked, as we already know.
And maybe one of the hardest impacted.
And one of the
Certainly not the
hardest
only,
impacted. Yes.
but it's a difficult time for everyone who's part of the industry. But looking at your business, I know you said you haven't really thought too much about it, but you've been in business, as you said, for 12, 13 years. You've seen a lot. There's been the economic downturn, 9/11. So many things have happened, but clearly this is on a scale that I don't think any of us have been through. I've been in business just about 10 years myself. So we've seen similar things. This is a whole nother level. I was just having a conversation with someone this morning and just saying, I don't think we could have ever imagined that this would happen, right? We have been really lucky because we do virtual events. And so business is actually very busy for us, but I certainly understand that's not the case for everyone. In terms of your business, what are some of your biggest concerns and biggest hopes right now for the next few, months or years as things kind of come back online?
And so overall, I've been in the industry 20, and the business itself, the company itself, 12. And what I've seen is, and I was interviewed the other day, and it just got posted yesterday. And one of the questions was similar to that. And I kind of said, we've hit a mark right now, the industry, that it seems like we've taken steps back 20 years. And for me, in my business, I've used those 20 years of experience into maintaining the resilience and taking all that I've learned, even though we've never gone through this, we all have something that we have learned, many things that we have learned that if you take a step back and see what we have learned and what we can use to maybe shift our businesses a different way. And I don't use pivot not because, I don't, not because I
It's
hate
the
it,
right
but it's
word.
just I like to use shift, and like to use shift because right now we're in a temporary mode of shifting our resources, our capabilities as to what can we do, what can we use our gifts, our just everything that we have learned to maybe impact something else that we can hopefully bring in revenue. Like you said, virtual events are going like they're tremendously awesome right now. And there's so much to the virtual world that we all don't have to be in front and do the virtual piece, but maybe we have the technology to do something different or to venture into something different. Like I've grown a passion for the fourth industrial revolution right now that I'm like, oh my gosh, this is my second passion. So from all of the virtual reality and everything like that, there's so much of the future that's a little hint right now
Yeah.
that I've been doing a little bit of that and just refocusing to see what maybe I can invent or, what is our new capabilities that I can bring to light. So those are the things that I'm using my experience, my expertise, and trying to bring something new to light or reinforce something.
Yeah,
So
I think it's
that's
very smart. It's one of our greatest challenges, but it's also one of our greatest opportunities right now. I think
exactly.
people, kind of fall into two buckets. Either you're kind of paralyzed and overwhelmed by everything that's going on, or you're invigorated. And I think actually every person probably individually goes through those phases multiple times too. We don't just feel super invigorated. There are times where you're just like, okay, I don't know what to do. And then, but I like your point about history giving us perspective, and in the
Exactly.
future we're going to look back at this and we're going to realize all the great things that are now as a part of the industry because we went through this really difficult time. And it's a little bit of a waiting game to see who
Yeah.
and how you make it through this time. Not everyone has the revenue coming in like rolling in like we were expecting. January 2020 looks very different than July 2020. um, but I do think it's a really great time for our industry.
And one of the things that I just want to add is, like I had, of course, like everyone else, had events planned and, working on those postponements and all that. And for me, having the relationships that I have internationally, I was able to get a step ahead and just foresee certain things and having conversations with my colleagues in Italy and different areas in Mexico, which is where I had one event postponed, and Puerto Rico and the Caribbean islands. So I was able to have that opportunity to have those conversations ahead
Yeah.
of time. When it came to the United States, not even the tri-state area, but when it came to the United States, I already started like 3 weeks before New York was shut down, making those calls, having those conversations with my clients that we need to move ahead with postponements, that we need to start having the conversations. And I already had the conversations and the calls with all of my colleagues in those perspective areas.
Yeah.
All the wedding pros that I was going to work with April and May. And so as soon as New York was about to close, we were already done with all the signings of all the postponements with that time frame. So I felt that, again, taking a step ahead and a look ahead, it's like one of the things that I feel that is a positive tool that I have, but
Yeah.
it's something that we all have. It's just being able to take a step back and looking at all of the qualities and the gifts that we, really possess.
Hmm.
I always try to have I'm not perfect, but I always try to have a positive perspective for things to come. See another side to the story, another side to everything, no matter how crazy or, unforeseeable it looks. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, when are we going to see the light? We're not seeing the light. And it's like, listen, you're alive. It's like, just breathe.
Yeah. That optimism is essential, like so essential right now. It's very much needed. And I've always been an optimist for sure. And I
I love
remember
that.
early February, mid-February, when this really started coming out and we started realizing this was going to hit our country and it was going to impact the events industry. I also was talking to clients and I remember saying, even my perspective on what I was telling my clients has dramatically changed since that time frame. Saying, okay, we need to look a few weeks in the future. We need to start canceling things. We're probably going to be shut down for a week or two. How little I knew. Now we're
Yeah.
canceling events through, even spring 2021, if
Yes.
not beyond. And so it's constantly, the information is constantly changing. The virus itself is constantly changing. And this is a time, our industry relationships have always been so important, but they've never been as important as they are now. And the global relationships that we all have, I think, has really helped us to understand what's working in the US, what's not working, what we have to look forward to. And I think our reality in the US is very different than other countries at this point. And
Oh my
so,
goodness.
um,
I just want to jump on that because I
yeah,
was with some Caribbean wedding professionals, wedding planners. And when they asked me, okay, so what's happening in the US? I said a little bit of everything in the global area.
yeah,
It's like we have the West is going through this, the Midwest is going through this, and the East is going through this, and the South. And I
right,
said, I think we
exactly.
have Italy in one end, Portugal is another. And I think it's
And
just
it just keeps
amazing.
rotating. It's like every time you think like, okay, the tri-state area, I think over the weekend we celebrated 0 deaths in one day, which seemed like a feat that was never really going to come. And you're like, yes, we're getting it under control. And then, another part of the country looks like we did a few months ago. And it's like, it's been a crazy ride. And I know you've been doing some work with the Live Events Coalition, which you mentioned briefly. Tell us whatever you want to about that, your work with them, how people can learn more, because I was also on that call on Friday. I think it's a great initiative to really advocate for our industry, which is, certainly overlooked in terms of everything's coming back at this point, at least in the New York area. We have indoor dining again. We have all these different things. Events are still pretty much off the table. And so I don't know how much other industries realize how much our industry's been impacted. So I would love to learn your perspective in the work that you're doing with them.
And thank you for giving me the opportunity to share that. One of the things that of a conversation we were having earlier here in the platform, seeing light, seeing opportunities, right? And the coalition is something that an amazing colleague that I know, Anita, she reached out to me and she said, would you love, I would love for you to join us and, on the board. And I was like, I'd love to ask millions and zillions of questions. So I said, okay, so who else can I speak to type of thing? And it's like, oh, would you like to speak to the president and Anthony? I was like, sure. So after, I had the conversation with her, it was starting to click as to what the coalition was about. And then when I spoke to Anthony, it kind of sealed the whole thing for me. And I was not looking to join anything. I
You
had
don't want
just
to add more to your plate?
I had just stepped down from being in a leadership role with the Association of Audit Consultants. And I was like, okay, I need to, because, personal things, COVID and business and things like that. And I had the conversation with him, and what came to my mind was there's a missing link, and I felt in my heart that okay, I there's a mission here that is beyond what people in the industry are thinking about right now. And it's something that it's a conversation that is going to have a ripple effect for years to come. And that conversation is there's a missing link. Being in the industry for 20 years, and I don't know if you've had this feeling, I didn't know there was a disconnect in the officials, the leadership, not understanding, they attend the events, right? The DMCs and all that stuff. And it's like, they don't know we're doing such a great job in producing the events that they don't know what happens in the back end of things. And so we're not, after listening and looking at the reopening phases and listing all that, we're not a part of that conversation. And we're a huge industry, a huge impact, from trade shows to conventions to, the small shops that produce favors, cigars, all of these little things, the janitor that cleans the floors in the venues, to those that venues, that there's just so much, a list that is too much to say. And when I thought about that, the coalition is a bridge to that, to having a voice, to having a seat, and having that voice and that conversation with government, that's what really clicked the light for me and said, wow. And from there, I was like, okay, I feel like I'm Evita right now. Like, I just want to conquer and put a voice to everything. And I met the rest of the board, and I just fell in love with everybody. I didn't know everyone. And this is one thing you mentioned about this time frame has really joined so many people together. And that's a whole different conversation in the collaborations and connections. And when I met and saw everyone who was on the board, not just because of what they do or who they are, but there was so much of a unity, a compassion, and understanding that the mission is so powerful. Then I got on a national board call, and that was even more of a powerful conversation, that I was like, okay, we need to have this. And it's not just for a short term. The mission of the coalition is to have that voice, to make that connection with government, and also to stay on for years to come. If anyone has not seen or heard, the restaurant, especially in the city, I know of this, the restaurant industry, they have an advocacy group for years. And I've seen the person that is heading it on TV constantly, and making the connections with government and leadership and things like that. We don't have that. So now it's something that is offering us that opportunity. And I'm really excited to be a part of that. And there's different task force going on, and different things. The coalition, we're under a national board. I'm part of the New York, New Jersey Events Coalition, and we're under the Live Events Coalition, and it's called Live Events Coalition because it's not just about hotels, or it's not just about venues, it's not just about planners, it's about everyone in the entire live events industry.
I think it's so great. And there's so many initiatives. I definitely recommend anyone who's listening or watching to check it out, because as you mentioned, there's kind of the nationwide initiative, and then there are all these local chapters. I was on the call on Friday just as someone in the industry who wants to see what's going on. And there's even very simple ways that people can participate. I know there was a social media campaign that I did last week that I participated in, where, you just kind of, I think it was #WishIWasThere, and you talk about what we were doing last summer that we are clearly not doing this summer. So there's ways to get involved, whether you want to be directly involved with like some of the lobbying efforts, or you just want to post on social media and share that you're part of the industry. So definitely recommend that people check that out. We are already kind of wrapping up our time, and
oh wow, look at where the time goes.
The conversations always go so fast. I really wanted to ask you about mentorship, because I know that was in our pre-conversation, something we talked about. And my whole career started with an amazing mentor, France Laflamme from Laflamme Consulting Group. She kind of took me under her wings. When I took that first client, she helped me write the proposals. And I always say I would not even have a business if it wasn't for her, because I really I didn't know where to start. And she's helped me so many times over the years. So I know this is an important thing to you too. So I'd love to just hear anything you want to say about this, whether your role as a mentor or mentee, how that has really impacted you, and advice for people who haven't found that person yet. And I think this is a time more than ever that we need to rely on each other. Again, not for just collaboration around communication, but how we can really help each other to make it through this crazy time. I think mentorship is a really big key to that. So I would love to hear about your experience.
It's an awesome topic because we're always rushing and don't have time for much. And I agree, this is a great opportunity for anyone that's looking. And I'm not talking about coaching, that's a whole different
Yeah.
conversation. But mentoring is someone that you can relate to, or they relate to you, right? And someone that it's more of I describe it as a heart to heart connection, because not everyone is designated to be everyone's
Yeah.
mentor or mentee. And so there's that heart to heart connection. You will feel in your gut when you know you have found the right person. And for me, that as a mentee, it happened 20 years ago. It happened when I took my first course, and that particular instructor was, even though it was online, I had someone with me, a mentor that was guiding me along the way through the course. And through this date, she's no longer in the industry, but she's still a part of the association. And she has been through so many things, whether it's me picking up the phone and saying, I have a question, or what do you think about this? But what led me to her in having that trust, having that bond, was just a simple question. She didn't make me feel stupid or dumb about asking, you know, a simple question. And it was basically, I'm not sure if this is for me or not. And she saw something in me that I didn't see at the time. Long story short, I now feel like I represent what she has created. That little spark, that little something of just answering that question and
Mm.
having that conversation with me. Now I am that to many others. And I get just goosebumps because that was a moment that, I was working full time and I wasn't sure if it was the right path. It definitely was not something that was overpopulated at that time compared to now, in reference to being an event planner. And she's always been that person on the side. I have my husband, he's my business partner, and he's that type of person that he's my support, and he steps out from everything and he gives me the real deal, right?
Yeah.
But she's on my other side, and that's what you need to find in a mentor, someone that you feel comfortable with. But as a mentor, you have to have that respect and that confidence and that confidentiality, with regards to your mentee as well.
Mhm.
For me, it's all about inspiring someone to believing in themselves before they even can think that they can do the job.
Yeah.
They have to believe in themselves. They have to go forth with being who they are, not what someone else is doing. And that's always been my walk and my path. And I believe so much in that particular aspect of living life and being successful. That's my form of success, believing in yourself.
Yeah. Well, I really love your perspective. It's been so good to get to talk to you. And I can tell not only that you're very passionate about our industry, which is obviously great, but just about the work that you do and about mentoring people as they come up. I think every step of the chain is so important, from the person who decided yesterday that they want to be in the events industry to the top level executive who has achieved everything they want to achieve in the industry, whatever that looks like. We're all so important. And as the work that you're doing with the Live Events Coalition is showing, we are all so interconnected, whether we like it or not. when one goes down, we all go down, and we need each other to rise back up. And so I really want to thank you for spending some time with me today and sharing all that you have shared. If people want to connect further with you and learn from you, maybe they even want you to be their dream mentor, what's the best way for people to connect with you?
So the best thing is, and I don't know if there's a way to put it on the screen.
We'll put the link for sure.
They can go to my 2 Instagrams. There's @ClassyJV, and the other one is @LEBJV. So the Classy JV is more of the personal brand for me, and that takes them to the website and the first book launch that I'm doing. And LEBJV is my company Instagram, and that again it takes you to my website and everything about me.
Awesome. So we're going to do a recap of this. So we'll certainly put those links in there. And I would definitely recommend, if you're listening and you're also as passionate about our industry as Jacqueline is, I would definitely recommend that you reach out to her. So thank you so much for spending this time with me on, at least here in New York, where we both are in this area, is a very hot day. Can't wait for fall to come. But
Yes.
really enjoyed talking with you. And thank you to all who watched live and will continue to listen to this on the podcast. I hope everyone has a great day. And we will be back next Wednesday at the same time, 12:30 p.m. Eastern, live on Facebook and YouTube. And then, of course, if you're listening to us already on the recordings on our podcast, those are always available on our website and iTunes and Stitcher and SoundCloud and all the amazing places. We try to get this out in as many places as possible. So thanks again, Jacqueline. It was great chatting with you.
Thank you. And I just want to put in there, you rock. You're awesome.